The student asked, well, how can any astronaut be great? Aren't astronauts pretty much like airline pilots, sort of interchangeable cogs? Greetings, my fellow inhabitants of the planet Earth. I hope you're all safe and well. I have received the first dose of the Moderna vaccine for the COVID, and I'm feeling much better about that. Hopefully, we're in the last days of this awful pandemic. I was talking with one of my students back about a year ago before the lockdown, and I referred to an astronaut as being great. And the student asked, well, how can any astronaut be great? Because aren't astronauts pretty much like airline pilots, highly trained professionals, but sort of interchangeable cogs? You can mix and match them and get pretty much the same results. Well, let's consider that. What does make an astronaut great? Let's start off by talking about Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong was considered a great astronaut from his first day on the job because he was famous for having flown the X-15 rocket plane, the hottest research aircraft of the day. And as one of the nation's top test pilots, he was automatically considered one of the nation's top astronauts because in those days, an astronaut was basically a test pilot. At the other end of the spectrum, we have Gene Cernan, a man who once attended a press conference aided by a hand puppet to help him answer those particularly difficult questions. Cernan wasn't a test pilot. He wasn't a combat veteran. He didn't hold a PhD. He was simply a Navy fighter pilot with a master's degree in aeronautical engineering. As such, he was the least qualified astronaut in his class. But nonetheless, he did pretty well for himself. On Gemini 9, he performed America's second spacewalk. Very dangerous, he almost died. He flew 2 missions to the moon. The first was Apollo 10, a full-on dress rehearsal that included absolutely everything except touching down on the moon. This flight made the first lunar landing possible. He also commanded Apollo 17, on which he spent a total of 24 hours working outside of the lunar module on the surface of the moon, doing science, driving around in a moon buggy, and he took a professional trained geologist with him. To this day, Gene Cernan is the last man to walk on the moon. And he is considered one of the greats because he made history. It could even be argued that his career was more impressive than Armstrong's. Now, let's consider the highest honor an American astronaut might receive. Ta-da! The Congressional Space Medal of Honor was established by Congress in 1969 to recognize, quote, any astronaut who, in the performance of his or her duties, has distinguished himself or herself by exceptionally meritorious efforts and contributed to the welfare of the nation and mankind, unquote. It is awarded by the President in Congress's name and on the recommendation of the Administrator of NASA. The Space Medal of Honor was considered so special that it wasn't awarded to anyone until 9 years after its creation. In 1978, President Jimmy Carter presented 6, all in the same ceremony. Neil Armstrong was the first recipient, was the first man on the moon. Frank Borman, the first man to the far side of the moon, along with his Apollo 8 crew, was another recipient. Pete Conrad, whose masterful repair work saved the Skylab space station. John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth. Gus Grissom, awarded posthumously as he perished in the Apollo 1 fire. And Alan Shepard, the first American in space. Alan Shepard would also walk on the moon on Apollo 14. No one can deny that these men all deserved the award. In his 8 years in office, Ronald Reagan awarded only 1 Space Medal of Honor, and that was to John Young, who was also a previous 2-time visitor to the moon, but John Young was awarded the Medal of Honor for commanding the first space shuttle mission. George H.W. Bush, the first Bush, awarded only one as well, and that went to Thomas Stafford for commanding the American half of the Apollo-Soyuz test project, America's first joint mission with the Soviet Union, and also the first international space mission. At that time there were only two spacefaring nations, the United States and the Soviet Union. President Bill Clinton awarded 4 Space Medals of Honor. The first was to James Lovell, mission commander of Apollo 13, and seen here with Tom Hanks, who played him in the movie version. Ed White, the first American to walk in space, was awarded one as well. His was posthumous, as he was another victim of the tragic Apollo 1 fire. Shannon Lucid, she got one for being a super nice person and setting the women's endurance record for time and space. This one I really don't understand. The award shouldn't be given for being a super nice person and well loved, although of course she was. And Lucid's record was surpassed by Sunny Williams, who received no award at all. Roger Chaffee, who was the third and final casualty of the Apollo 1 fire. Chaffee was unfortunately considered by Chief Astronaut Deke Slayton to be an underperforming astronaut. Slayton assigned Chaffee to an undemanding flight assignment in hopes that he'd rise to the occasion. Unfortunately, he didn't. Mission Commander Gus Grissom was not pleased by Chaffee's lack of commitment. This was the first, but not the last time, that the Congressional Space Medal of Honor would be awarded for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was essentially the equivalent of the Purple Heart. President George W. Bush, Bush number 2, opened the floodgates. Since its inception, only 12 Space Medal of Honors had been awarded. Bush II would award a grand total of 16, more than all the others combined. The first was to William Shepard, the first commander of the International Space Station. This decision has always baffled me. The mission went completely as planned. There was no unforeseen obstacles to overcome. Shepard, a former Navy SEAL, didn't need to land his crippled spacecraft in the middle of the night in a typhoon. Unlike the little Dutch boy, he didn't need to plug a dike with his finger. Why then was he awarded the Congressional Space Medal of Honor? I have no idea. Bush also awarded the Space Medal of Honor to the crew of STS-107, all of whom died on the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. And for good measure, he awarded the Space Medal of Honor to the crew who died on the Challenger disaster as well. I was heartsick over the loss of both Columbia and Challenger. However, knowing that the crews were awarded the Space Medal of Honor didn't lessen my grief. Rather, it only added to my concerns for the families of those who were lost. For the children of fallen servicemen, the funeral is always a horrible ordeal, but they're allowed to remain silent, and if they like, they're allowed to show their grief. The subsequent awards ceremony can be even worse. At the awards ceremony, they're expected to put on a happy face and express gratitude by saying something like, "Thank you for this wonderful Purple Heart. It will serve as a constant reminder of my father's death." Not that I need reminding. Now, let's consider some of the people who returned to Earth alive and kicking but didn't receive the Medal of Honor. There's Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon. Michael Collins, command module pilot of Apollo 11. Sally Ride, the first American woman in space. Jack Schmitt, the first geologist on the moon. William Anders, one of the first men to see the far side of the moon. Guy Bluford, the first African American in space. Wally Schirra, the only man to fly all 3 series. Mercury, Gemini, Apollo. Deke Slayton, the chief astronaut. Gene Cernan, the last man on the moon, seen here with Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on the moon. But what do you think? Is there anyone who you feel that is deserving of the Space Medal of Honor that I did not mention? If so, please leave your comments below, or whatever else you have to say on the matter. As always, thank you for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure for me to have this moment to spend with you. Stay safe, stay well. Until next time, stay out of trouble. Bye.